3 weeks ago, you stood in front of your rose bed with a spray bottle in your hand. $12, maybe 14, for the one with the picture of a dead bug on the label. You soaked every leaf. You felt good about it, and for 3 days, it looked like you'd won. Then you walked out one morning with your coffee, turned over a young leaf, and there they were again. Little green bodies packed shoulder to shoulder, and a line of ants running up the trunk like they owned the place. You stood there wondering what you did wrong. The sticky film on the buds, that sour smell, all that money, and you were right back where you started. I want to tell you something, and I want you to hear it plain. You didn't do anything wrong. That bottle was never going to fix your problem because the bottle doesn't touch the cause. Nobody told you what those ants were actually doing on your tree. And there's a reason nobody told you. We'll get to that before we're done. My name is Walter Hayes. I'm 68 years old, and I farm the same Ozark ground in Missouri that my grandfather worked back in the 1940s. I've fought ants and aphids on apple trees, on roses, on beans for better than 50 years. Most of what I know about it, I learned from a man who never owned a spray bottle in his life. Here's what you're going to have by the end of this. 9 things. How the ants and the aphids are working together against you. 2 ways to seal off a tree trunk for the cost of pocket change. 2 old uses for wood ash, a soap mix measured out exact, and the helpers that work for free. The whole system cost you less than $2. And number 8 on this list is the strangest trick you'll hear all year. My grandfather used it. It costs nothing, and I'd bet good money you've never heard of it. Don't you leave before we get there. Let's get into it. Number 1. The truth about what's happening on your tree. And once you see this, you can't unsee it. Get up close to that line of ants some morning. Follow them to where the aphids are clustered on the new growth and watch what they do. They're not eating those aphids. They're tending them. An ant will walk up to an aphid and stroke it with its antennas, gentle as anything, and the aphid lets out a drop of sweet liquid called honeydew. The ants drink it. That's their sugar. So the ants protect the aphids. They fight off the ladybugs that would eat them. Some folks have watched ants carry aphids one by one up to fresh young leaves, the way a rancher moves cattle to new pasture. That's the partnership. The aphids are the herd, and the ants are the ranchers. Here's where most folks go wrong. They spray the aphids and ignore the ants. You can kill every aphid on that rose today, and the ranchers will restock the herd inside of a week or 2. That's why the bottle keeps failing you. You're fighting the cattle and leaving the cowboys alone, so the plan is simple. Cut the road. If the ants can't climb the trunk, the partnership falls apart, and the aphids sit there undefended. Once a week, turn over the youngest leaves and check. That's where they always start. Everything else on this list builds from that one idea. Number 2, the trunk barrier. Done the right way, because the way most videos show it can kill your tree. The idea is old and it's sound. You wrap a band around the trunk that ants can't cross. But I've seen folks slap sticky tape straight onto the bark, and I need you to hear me on this. Never put tape directly on bark. Bark is how a tree breathes. Tape traps moisture against it. The bark softens and rots underneath, and on a young tree that band can choke the trunk the way a tourniquet chokes an arm. Folks have lost good apple trees that way and never knew what did it. Here's the right way. Cut a strip of old cloth or a plastic bag about 4 to 6 inches wide. Wrap that around the trunk first, maybe 18 inches up from the ground, snug but not tight. The tape goes on over the cloth, never touching bark, and keep the sticky side facing in. If you leave sticky surfaces exposed out in the yard, you'll catch more than ants. Folks have found lizards and little garden snakes stuck to that tape, torn up so bad they couldn't be saved. We're not doing that. One more thing, and it matters. That band comes off. Check it every month and take the whole thing off in fall after the leaves drop. A barrier you forget about becomes a wound. Number 3, the petroleum jelly ring. This is the one that answers the question I know you're asking, which is why the tape sometimes fails anyway. Tape loses its grip out in the weather. Dust settles on it and kills the stick. And ants are smarter than we give them credit for. I've watched them haul grains of sand up a trunk and lay them across a sticky band like a road crew building a bridge. And inside a day the whole colony is crossing on the backs of that sand. So if you tried tape before and swore it didn't work, that's likely what beat you. Dust, weather, or the bridge. Petroleum jelly beats all three. Same cloth band as before, wrapped around the trunk, never on bare bark, because the jelly can stain and soften bark over time. Then smear a ring of plain petroleum jelly over the cloth, about 2 to 3 inches wide and as thick as your thumb. Ants will walk right up to the edge of it, stop, and turn around. They can't grip it, they can't bridge it, and dust doesn't ruin it the way it ruins tape. A small jar costs about $2 at any drugstore and will band every tree you own for 2 seasons. Wipe it down and lay on a fresh ring about once a month through the growing season. That's the whole job. 5 minutes a tree. Now let me ask you something while we're standing here at the trunk. How much have you handed over the years for bottles that work 3 days? $20 a season? 50? Everything on this list comes out of the kitchen and the wood stove. That's what this channel is. The old knowledge taught slow for free. Subscribing costs you nothing, and it's the smartest thing you'll do in the garden today. Now, back to those aphids, because the ranchers are cut off and the herd is sitting there waiting. Number 4, the wood ash spray. This is the one my grandfather reached for when aphids got onto the fruit trees and the roses. If you got a wood stove or a fire pit, you got this for free. Hardwood ash only, oak, hickory, maple, whatever you burn. Never ash from charcoal briquettes. Never anything that's had lighter fluid on it. That's not ash. That's chemicals. The measure is simple. 1½ cups of sifted wood ash to 1 gallon of water. Stir it up and let it stand for several hours. Give it a stir whenever you walk past. Then strain it and strain it twice. Once through a kitchen sieve, then through an old cloth or a piece of cheesecloth, or it will clog your sprayer the first squeeze. Spray it early in the morning, or in the evening, never in the heat of the day. There's 2 reasons. Hot sun on a wet, dusted leaf can scorch it, and the spray needs time to dry before the bees come working. A dry leaf doesn't trouble a bee. Get up under the leaves, on the buds, on the young growth, because that's where the herd lives. In my experience, most of those aphids are gone by the next morning. Before you do the whole plant, spray 1 leaf and wait 48 hours. If that leaf looks fine, go ahead. That rule holds for anything you ever spray, mine included. Number 5, ash in the soil, the gentler way, and honestly, the older one. Some old-timers never sprayed ash at all. They put it in the ground instead, and they had their reasons. A spray sits on the leaf, and a strong mix can scorch tender growth. The soil method never touches a leaf. You spread about 2 cups of dry ash in a ring around the base of the tree or the rose, scratch it in shallow with a rake, and water it down. That's it. Why does it work? The ash carries potash down to the roots, and the new leaves that grow come in tougher. An aphid feeds by piercing soft young tissue with a mouthpart like a needle. When the leaf toughens up, that needle can't get through, and the herd starves out. You're not poisoning anything. You're just raising leaves the aphid can't bite. Men who farmed this way did it once every 2 or 3 years and kept clean trees. Now I'll be straight with you because that's the only way I know how to talk. This is the slow road. The spray works overnight. The soil ring works over a season. And there's a caution that matters. Wood ash sweetens soil the way lime does. Keep it well away from anything that loves acid ground. Azaleas, blueberries, hydrangeas, rhododendrons. Give those plants ash and they'll sulk for a year. Once a season around fruit trees and roses, and no more. We're halfway, and the strange one is still coming. Number 8 is the trick that empties out entire anthills without one drop of poison. And it's the reason this whole video exists. The last few on this list also cover what to do when the aphids are on your vegetables and your knees won't let you spray. Stay with me. Number 6, the soap spray. For when the aphids beat you to the tender stuff, plain soap and water has knocked down soft-bodied insects since before anybody alive was born. But the measure and the kind of soap matter. Use a pure soap. Castile is what I keep, the plain liquid kind. 1 tablespoon to a gallon of water, shook up gentle. Not dish detergent, not anything that says degreaser or antibacterial on the label. Those strip the waxy coat off your leaves along with the bugs. The reason it works is simple and a little grim. An aphid doesn't breathe through its mouth. It breathes through tiny holes along its body, and the soap film seals those holes. It has to land on the bug to work, so you spray the aphids themselves, up under the leaves, right on the clusters. Spraying the air around them does nothing. Same timing as the ash. Early morning or evening, dry before the bees fly. Test 1 leaf first and wait 2 days. Then hit them every 5 to 7 days for 2 or 3 weeks. Because eggs you can't see will keep hatching behind you. Most folks spray once, see aphids again in a week, and decide soap doesn't work. It works fine. It just isn't a one and done, and nobody tells you that part. 40 cents of soap in that gallon, give or take. You remember what the bottle cost. You do that math. Number 7, the free help and the mistake of wanting every ant dead. I know the feeling. You see that line marching up the trunk, and you want every last one of them gone off the property. Don't do it. Ants till more soil on this farm than I do. They haul off dead insects. They open up the ground for water and air. An ant out in the yard is a worker. It's only the ant on your tree that's a rancher. Cut the road and let the rest of them live. And then there's the ladybug. If you want a picture of what a healthy garden looks like, it's a ladybug working a rose stem. That little orange shell moving slow through a crowd of aphids, eating as she goes. One ladybug can put away dozens of aphids in a single day, And her larvae, ugly little things that look like tiny black alligators, eat even more. The only thing that keeps ladybugs off your aphids is the ants guarding the herd. Ban the trunk, and the ladybugs do your spraying for you. While they work, you can help with the hose. A hard, straight blast of water knocks aphids off the plant, and most of them never find their way back up. Every 2 or 3 days, 30 seconds a plant. Costs nothing, and it's a fine excuse to stand in the garden in the cool of the morning. While I've got you here, put your state or your USDA zone, if you know it, down in the comments for me. Ant trouble in Missouri and ant trouble in Arizona are two different animals, and I rid everyone. What you tell me decides what we cover next. Number 8, the one I promised you, the anthill war. My grandfather showed me this when I was maybe 10 years old. Out behind the produce stand, we ran on the road into town. We had 2 big ant hills, one by the fence line, one over near the rhubarb. I figured he'd pour something on them. Instead, he handed me a shovel and said, "Take a scoop of that hill and dump it on the other one." Then he had me carry a scoop back the other way. I thought the old man was having fun with me. 2 days later, both hills were empty. Not smaller, empty. Here's why it works. An ant colony runs on smell. Every colony has its own scent, and every ant wears it like a uniform. When you dump a shovelful of strangers, soil workers, brood and all, into the middle of another colony, those ants read it as an invasion at the front door. They don't shrug it off. The 2 colonies go to war, and they fight it to the end. Whatever is left of either side moves out, because the ground itself now smells like the enemy. Within a day or 2, both mounds sit abandoned. 1 scoop each way. No poison in your soil, nothing your dog or your grandkids can get into, not 1 cent spent. It works when you got 2 separate mounds, and most yards with an ant problem have at least 2. If you've only got the 1 hill, a few sugar cubes set out across the yard will tell you quick whether there's a second colony you didn't know about. I've used this trick for 60 years, give or take. It has not failed me yet, and in half a century I've never once heard it mentioned on a shelf at the garden center. Sit with that for a minute. Number 9, the cardboard skirt, the finishing touch, and a pretty piece of old craft. Picture a paper cone like a lampshade fitted around the trunk with the wide end pointing down at the ground. You can cut one from a cereal box or an old milk carton in 5 minutes. Wrap it so it flares out and down. Tie it gentle with twine over your cloth band, never bare against the bark, and leave a good overhang all the way around. An ant climbing that trunk hits the inside of the skirt and has to walk upside down, out, and over the rim to keep going. Most of them can't manage it, and the ones that try mostly turn back. Folks have run this on fruit trees for whole seasons with nothing but cardboard and string. Pair it with the jelly ring, and that trunk is closed for business. And there's the picture I want to leave you with. A June morning, your roses opening clean, leaves glossy and dark with nothing crawling under them, a ladybug or 2 on patrol, and a cardboard skirt on the apple tree like something out of an old farm photograph. That's not luck. That's a system, and now it's yours. Let me run back through all of it, but this time by your problem, not by my list. For roses crusted with aphids right now today, it's the ash spray at dusk, 1½ cups to the gallon strained twice, with the soap mix 5 days behind it. For the fruit tree with the ant highway up the trunk, it's the cloth band, the jelly ring, and the cardboard skirt, and check that band every month. For anthills out in the yard or the vegetable rows, it's the shovel trick, one scoop each way and walk away. For knees and a back that don't bend to spraying anymore, it's the soil method, a ring of ash raked in once a season, and let the roots do the climbing for you. And if you keep bees, or your neighbor does, everything you spray goes on at dawn or dusk, so it's dry before they fly. Pick the one that fits your trouble and start there. You don't have to do all 9. You'll have to do the right 2. Now, the question I promised to answer. Why didn't anybody tell you this? Nobody hid it. Nobody had to. Think about how the business works. A customer whose aphids come back every 3 days buys a bottle every 3 days. A man with a cloth band, a jelly ring, and a coffee can of stove ash doesn't buy anything ever again. There's no shelf space for him, no commercial during the evening news, no end cap display in April. The old ways didn't get disproven. They just stopped being worth anybody's money to mention. So they faded, one generation at a time, until folks like you and me had to go digging for them. Here's your job this week, and I want it done before Sunday. Take your morning coffee out to the worst tree or the worst rose you've got. Find the ant line and follow it with your eyes, all the way up until you see where they're going. Don't spray anything, don't buy anything, just find the road they're using. Once you can see the road, you already know how to close it. And one more thing before I let you go. Did your mother or your grandfather or somebody down the road have their own trick for ants and aphids? A powder, a rap, something they swore by? Put it in the comments. Those little family tricks die quiet when nobody writes them down. And this is as good a place as any to write them down. I read every single one. In the next one, we're going into the vegetable garden, because what you spray on a rose and what you spray on a leaf you're going to eat are 2 different conversations. I'll show you the cleaner mixes my family used on beans, squash, and tomatoes, measured out exact, same as today. That's the old garden way. I'll see you in the garden.